Alright, third time is the charm. Welcome back, guys, to the podcast. We've been missing for almost 2 weeks now. Want to touch on why we've been gone, Laura?
I don't know. Maybe because you've been mean to me.
Is that fair?
Yeah, pretty fair. Seems pretty fair to me.
I definitely have been mean. I've been like an asshole, but I haven't just been mean, right?
Pretty much.
Laura.
No, it's the truth.
Today we're talking about depression and also repressing feelings, and how Laura and I deal with those, how we're able to move past them, or how we suppress them, or how we don't move past them. I'm sure a lot of people out there, I don't think there's not one person out there that doesn't deal with depression or like major amounts of stress. And I think this is a good, I guess this is probably a good look into our life. I mean, would you say that I repress, or what's the opposite of repress? Or
Express, maybe?
yeah, I mean, I guess so, yeah. I feel like I repress a lot of things, and it gets to the point. So, and this is not trying to ramble. We struggle with this plenty in our relationship, and up plenty until recent. I feel like, as far as me bottling things up and just like exploding on Laura.
That's not necessarily repression, though.
Well, like if I repress something, if I'm bottling up little tiny things that you've done in the past.
And when I think of repression, I think of you repress it so much you almost forgot it happened. Because you'd rather not feel that feeling than...
like numb.
Yeah.
I could see that. I could see that in another light. I guess there's two sides to that coin. So what about you, Laura? I've been talking for a minute.
Well, what do you mean? Like, my mental disorders or my problems with repression and depression? Like, give me a basic line here.
So there's plenty of ways we can go with that. I guess let's start a little bit earlier in our relationship. When we first...
when you realized I was crazy?
No, you're not crazy. When we first started dealing with... I think this goes back to arguing a little bit.
I think it goes back to you might first started dealing with it, but it's something I've been dealing with my entire life. I just remember being a kid and being so angry. And sometimes for no reason. I mean, I was such an angry kid. And I wouldn't say half the time, but some of the time there was just no need to be so angry all the time.
I remember a very specific argument. I think this was about 1 year into...
when I broke the mirror?
A relationship.
Because you bought the book.
Oh, yeah. I don't think this was exactly that one, but this is all right in the center of that.
When I told you I had bipolar disorder and you freaked out and bought a book on how to love someone with bipolar disorder.
Yeah, so when she told me, like, I wanted to show her like I really cared about her, and I was like, man, I have no clue what this is and how like this like I've heard of the stereotypes and everything, and I'm sure everyone has, but I wanted to like express to her like, look, I just want to get to know you and understand like quote unquote your triggers and things like that. And it was like
That
when
was a trigger.
it was so
To buy a book that someone who's never met me, never worked with me, never talked to me, wrote to tell you my triggers instead of you asking me and informing yourself through me on what triggers me versus someone who just generalizes everyone with bipolar disorder in a category.
Oh man, that was such a bad time.
And you didn't understand why I was so mad. And you would throw it in my face quite often. Oh, it's just your disorder acting up again.
I didn't say that.
No, but you thought it. And
No,
you would say something of the sort. Yeah, you did.
I didn't think that. I really, at that time, I really wanted to like let you know, like I really supported you. And I was more on the side of like, it's weird because like, I didn't think Laura had like a problem, like, and what she continued to tell me, like, I have this and this is what it is. And I'm telling her like, hey, look, you're normal. I love you for you. But in a weird way, that's the wrong thing to say at the same time. Do you remember that? Like,
yeah.
like,
but when I would go through my crazy mood swings, you would always try to call the cops on me or the ambulance.
When
I would get really crazy. Yeah. Especially with my postpartum depression. My postpartum depression, it was pretty bad after Eden, and I didn't want to seek help because I was scared that they were going to take him away from me because I was depressed. And shit hit the fan, and you didn't know what to do, and it just kind of, I think it freaked you out a little bit. When I got into a really, like, panic attack mode, and I was, like, crying in the corner.
I mean, I feel like I remember this.
Well, I mean, it happens all the time, but but with Eden, it was bad. I mean, I had a little postpartum depression with King, where I would also cry in the corner. But with Eden, it was a shock going from this party girl to a mom.
And I don't want to like jump too far from the core, like what we're talking about, but to add on to that, like I feel like why moms, even dads, I'm sure this can go the same for dads too, why you can ultimately get so depressed when you first have a kid is it's such a different shock. It's a different world where you go from, having like preparing for this kid and just kind of like having your own world to like a non-stop rush of just like not being able to do anything but take care of this kid, which is great, but at the same time you lose yourself a lot of times in that for a while because maybe you're finding yourself a little bit more in becoming a dad or in becoming a mom, or you kind of agree with that, or is that you have a different belief or different view on
there's
why
a chemical thing. Your body, after you have a baby, goes through a lot of hormonal changes. And if there's a chemical imbalance in your brain already, such as bipolar disorder or depression that you suffer, it can be a very big trigger. And they ask you to seek help because some people can get to the point where they want to kill themselves or their child or someone else. I never really got to that point because I can sense my triggers and try to work on them most times when I see them forming. Most of the time I just need to yell and have like a super panic attack and cry and lay in the bed for a couple days and I'm good. But sometimes it's harder to pull yourself out of that funk. And when you have to parent, when you can barely take care of yourself and you've never done it before, you're just used to taking care of yourself and pulling yourself out of that funk. It's different. It's not.
You have to be
easy.
happy for that kid, but how are you happy? How can you be happy when you're like super depressed or super sad? Jumping back to that first real bout, when you said, "Hey, Will, I have bipolar disorder." I was trying to be supportive. I also didn't understand. We both, I feel like, didn't understand how we argued, like how we dealt with arguments.
Still clearly don't.
I don't think that's fair.
Oh, I do.
I don't. But when we were first together, Laura's, to find the way you argue and you're able to get over like something. I think I can tell it for you, but I'd rather it come from you.
It depends on how mad I am. Like, if I'm just like, something you did kind of annoyed me, like leaving your socks on the floor, I'll let it go for a while and then I'll blow up and throw all your socks away. So I can be vindictive and petty. But if I'm really mad, I used to just let my anger eat me alive, because not only do I have bipolar disorder, I have severe anger issues. And I would just start throwing things and breaking things and just yelling beyond, to the point where anyone can even understand what I'm saying, and just flip the fuck out. Now I try to separate myself from that anger, because who I become when I'm angry isn't a good person. And lashing out isn't okay.
So imagine I'm very expressive and I want to solve every problem there is. It's so much that it's definitely a flaw. And I think a lot of people go through or our personalities are like this. And to someone that ultimately wants space versus to talk about something, they're both.
You aren't always like that, though.
Always like what?
Wanting to talk it out. A lot of times you just want to go to sleep, because it always seems to happen late night. Yeah, and I was raised never to go to bed angry, because you never know if that's the last conversation you're going to have with that person. So
that
it would make you stay up with me all night.
Oh, I remember those nights too.
Until it was fixed.
Let's talk that too. Let's bring that up. I didn't understand how Laura argued, and I also didn't really understand what I said and how forceful my arguing was and how it affected her. For instance, we get into a bout about me eating the last cupcake, something stupid, right? And Laura's like, "You ate my cupcake. I just want to be alone right now. I don't want to talk to you." That's her way, her mechanism of like, I'm trying to deal with this. But for me, I want to quote unquote solve the problem. So I'm like, "No, I'm so sorry I ate the cupcake."
I wouldn't say you would say I'm sorry. You would say, well, how was I supposed to know it was yours?
Yep.
And that would have set me off all the way, as in, who else would the fuck it be? What do you think, I was saving it for the kids? No, that was mine. And you would have said, well, whatever. And I would say, you really hurt my feelings. And you would have said, well, you make yourself feel that way. I can't make you feel any type of way. Blah, 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 so forth.
Right.
So that's how that would have went. And it would have went on for hours, sometimes days. And then either you would never apologize and I would just ignored you till I was horny, or like, you might apologize and we duke it out and be good, but
apology wasn't your thing in the beginning.
What do you
mean?
You
didn't want an apology.
Because I'm not going to get some half-ass apology, and that's what you were good for.
You didn't... Nigga, you only good for a half-ass apology.
It was true, and you know it. I'm sorry, but, is what you say to me. I'm sorry, but...
Yeah, I used to say that a lot. But there was also plenty of times when, like, I was super genuine about my apology, but you're like, words don't mean anything to me.
They still don't. Actions speak louder than words. If you're sorry, show me you're sorry.
And that is so...
Like, I'll take it for face value for now, but don't keep telling me you're sorry and keep doing the same shit. That's not how things work. You can tell someone you're sorry all day, but if you don't show it, how are they supposed to know? Just like you can tell someone you love them all day, all you want. But just because you love somebody, sometimes that's not enough. You have to show them that you love them. And I'm not saying drop hundreds of dollars on this person, but little things. Pick your socks up, maybe. Or make me breakfast every once in a while. Buy me flowers. Or, tell me, oh, I love your hair today. Something like of the sort. Tell me you love me every day. I don't know. But you have to show it. You can't, words or nothing to me.
But they are something. So here goes, this is what, like, okay, so going back to that core, like that moment, I was so forceful with
this
wanting
book.
Not just...
You wanted me to read the book.
I did. I wanted to, like, hey, have an exercise with you and, like, be like, hey,
like I was some kind of project, though.
You thought of it as I always thought you were a project. I was just thinking of it as like, I really want to understand you more. I have no clue what bipolar is. You've been living with this your whole life. I want to know more about you. I want to be better with you. And so that was a huge moment in our relationship. It was a make it or break it type of thing. I don't even, how did we get over that, Laura?
I don't remember. It's been a
shit.
while. Probably just got in a really big argument.
It's weird for me still to this day because I think of Laura as, like, Laura is Laura to me. I don't think of Laura with the bipolar disorder or Laura with the small pinky. It's just like, it's weird for me to even still, like, classify you as, oh, you have, you're bipolar. I think I know that that's what it is, but that doesn't define you, and that I don't think that should define anyone. I feel like there's definitely...
I still feel like you have a hard time with it, or at least with my depression that comes with it.
I have a hard time.
When I get in my depression, sometimes nothing sets it off. Sometimes it just happens. Sometimes I'm just thinking heavily on something that happened to me at one point in time, and I don't want to leave the bed, and when it hits, you can tell. I get really emotional. I don't want to do anything. I don't even want to shower. I just want to lay in bed and watch TV. Sometimes not even that, and just cry. And I'll cry about anything, but I have to let it out or it's just going to get worse. And a lot of people see me as this strong person who can handle anything, when in reality, that's just a front on the outside, because inside I'm a really depressed person who just knows how to put on a smile. And it's just something I've been dealing with my entire life. I've always been this way. And when I get this way, you try to say things like, get over it, people have it worse than you, it is what it is, instead of
classic, it is what it is.
Coming at me differently. Like, I get people have it worse than me, but I have it pretty bad too. Maybe not at this particular moment, but things that have happened to me, or sometimes it's just how my brain works and I get in these moods. And the last thing I need to hear from you, the person who's supposed to love me, protect me, and support me, is get the fuck over it. You're being a little bitch.
A little harsh, but definitely.
But it's true. I mean, you don't necessarily say you're being a little bitch, but you're thinking it.
In certain instances, and I wouldn't want to, like, blanket this over, like, every single thing that...
I mean, I could be mad about a cupcake,
I mean?
that could be the straw on the camel's back, but that's not necessarily what started this depression kick.
So bring it back to the cupcake, right? For me, and this is how I deal with, like, depression and anxiety and things where I get really upset. And it's how I do it, and it doesn't mean that it's the way Laura should do it at all, but that's the way it's hard sometimes to switch your own thinking. The cupcake, right? The kids ate the last cupcake. It was some special cupcake that we were saving for whatever. And the stores are closed. They're maybe not even closed. And Laura's like, look, that was the last cupcake. I've been waiting for that cupcake all fucking day, and now it's gone. I'm so mad. I'm so pissed. I'm just done, right? We might have had a date night. We might have had a whatever. but her mood's completely gone because of this cupcake. And to me, it's like, babe, I'll go to the store and get you another cupcake. What would you say to that?
It's not the same.
It's not the
I want
fucking
it
same.
now.
I want this cupcake. You go to the store. That means I'm stuck with these kids. I'm stuck. I have all this other stuff that I have to do. And now you're giving me shit about this cupcake. And typically, what I would say by the end of this argument, because I'd try to sympathize or whatever, empathize or whatever, I'm like, look, Laura, it is what it is. Like, really.
But you can't say you're sympathizing by telling me it is what you're not a sympathetic person. You don't really sympathize with people. And that's the truth, and you know it. You're not very sympathetic at all.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And when I'm just reaching out, when I'm crying out for help the most and you don't notice it, it puts me more into a depression.
Yeah.
Which makes me shut you out. It makes me push you away. It makes me push everyone away. It affects how I treat everybody. Because I just want you to... I mean, we've been together for 7 years, almost. Mm-hmm. You should know my depression and when it's starting and what triggers it sometimes. And sometimes it's like you see it and you egg it on. It's like you want to see me explode. And when I do explode, it's hard for me to stop.
Yeah, we get to the point of like no return where it's like if there's some type of button that's pressed, we're both just like spitting fire at each other. But to go back, I mean, or at least to kind of flip it back over, because we've been talking about, you being depressed and bipolar and stuff like that. I feel like instead of it being like a moments that I go through depression or like times that I go through it, and I definitely do have like some like a week maybe here and there that I'm really just depressed. I feel like I go through depression each day in a weird way, like almost to the point where it's like I get to a point where I'm having a great day. I start off good. Things are building up, I get super mad, super stressed, and then I get to a point where I'm just at the end of my whatever.
I would say that, I don't know, maybe everyone's depression's different. I would say that's more of an anxiety attack. You have those a lot. I don't think you realize it because anxiety attacks aren't just necessarily chewing on your fingers, crying in the corner. It's lashing out and being mean to people when you're mad about something else and taking it out on everyone else, which is something you do. I wouldn't necessarily say depression, more of an every single day, more of anxiety.
Yeah, but like the little things, I agree with everything you're saying. I think that definitely is anxiety. That's also, but I think it builds up, right? Every day you get to a point where it's like it's super hard, and it's hard not to think about all the other days where you are going through a specific moment in that specific time, and all of that stuff begins to build up and you become depressed about that never-ending cycle of madness. I'm pretty sure that makes sense. And then there's times when I do like go to a point where and I think a lot of people do too, where I've achieved so much and I've done so much in my life and I should be so happy and I have a great job and a wonderful wife and kids and everything. But you get to a point, or I get to a point in my moment where it just feels like no one cares. What's the point? This is just like and even though it's not that way, it feels that way so much. And when I get that way, I am such an asshole. Like, I'm the worst person to ever be around. Laura, you can completely attribute to, like, talk about this, but
You get that way mostly when I go in my moods because you're so used to using me as your rock.
Yeah.
And you're a strong one. And a person can only take so much, and trying to keep it together for you, for the kids, for everyone else who's around me, and put on this smile and this persona that I'm the happiest person in the world. I'm so funny. I make a lot of people laugh when really I'm hurting on the inside for whatever reason. Sometimes no reasons. It just happens. So when I finally start to let that show, you lose it. And it makes it worse.
She is definitely my rock when like things aren't.
And sometimes I can't keep it together. Sometimes I have to let it out and move past it to move on. I have to work through it. And sometimes you don't get it.
A lot of times I don't get it. But there's... I think... Okay, what's another moment? Like another... This can be a time when we actually like got it, or it can be a time where we really...
What do you mean got it?
Like when we started to understand each other a little bit about like what moment comes to mind where I was talking to you or you were talking to me and we understood.
I've always gotten where your depression spews because you feed off of my energy.
Do you? Because I don't know where half of it comes from sometimes.
I think you're just so used to me being there and being that strong one that always has a plan and always figures everything out. And when I don't, you don't know what to do. So you feed off of me and my next move sometimes with certain things. I don't think you're really... I think you just accepted my bipolar and depression as me and who I am, and maybe you don't see it as much anymore, but it's still prominent.
Do you think that's like... How do you think that's a good way to see? Like if
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a bad way. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a good way, but because you see it as so normalized, as in that's just me, when I do get in those moments, it's like a big deal. Instead of being like in your head, oh, she's just having one of her moments, let me just walk away. Instead, when I get like that, you try to make me talk to you and I don't want to. You try to touch me when I'm crying and you want to wipe my tears, which is a big pet peeve. I don't like that. I don't want you around me. I don't want you looking at me. I don't want you touching me. It's just going to piss me off. And you do it and you don't stop. It's like you want to help, but the help makes it worse. And we've been together so long, you should know by now that's a thing.
But there's a flip to that too, where
I go through moments where I do want you to do that stuff. I don't want you to ever wipe my tears though. You're not very good at it and it just makes me mad. But there are moments where I just want you to see when I need a hug. And I just want you to hold me while I cry and just listen to me bitch and moan. Even if it's about the same thing for the next 3 hours.
That's a hard thing for me.
I want you to listen to it.
It's hard for me to like listen to, like, as you call it, bitching and moaning. I don't think it's like bitching and moaning, but like, that's hard for me to do. And like to go back to that, like, you don't want me to be there, or, to, wipe your tears, etc. But on the backside of that, if I didn't do that, it would be like, you're not being compassionate, you're not showing me care, you're not showing me love. And I'd rather take more of that risk of like not thinking that you care. But there's different triggers,
like I feel like I give signs when I want you to come hold me and touch me. And I give signs when I don't want you next to me at all. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like when I need someone there for me, and I want it to be you and no one else, I let you know in my own body language. As in, I come and talk to you, I sit next to you, and I'll lay my head in your lap or something. But when I don't want you around me, maybe I want, like, my friend or nobody at all. I just want my cat or something. You just that's when you try to push yourself on me. Instead of when I'm coming to you and you tell me to get the fuck over it, I'm bitching for no reason.
So, depression, you embracing me and you just telling me like everything's, everything's okay, but not like being like everything's okay and I gotta check on the kids. Like just being there for however long it needs to be. And that always brings you back, maybe because you're, like you said, you're my rock. I think that's but I'm gonna devil's advocate that though a little bit. I think that's like 90 or 80% of the time. But let's just go back to an incident a week or so ago. We've been pretty cool about like going out and like hanging out with friends and vice versa. But it's really hard when you have kids and the other person goes out and you're like having to take care of the kids as well as them kind of going out. I ended up flipping shit on Laura when I really shouldn't have whatsoever. But I didn't realize that I was in the wrong.
Until I got home.
Until not like it. I think it took me a little bit of extra time too. Like I flipped shit on Laura. Laura was like, "Look, hey, I'm sorry. I'm gonna rush home. I got you." But I was so mad and fuming in my mind of like, "Oh God, I can't believe this." That when she got home, and she was in a good mood. She was trying to make the situation better. She was trying to. That I was in such a nasty mood that it just put her in a bad mood, which put me in a bad mood, which put her in an even worse mood, and then it turned into just a horrible mess. And then I got mad because she was mad at me. Like, how dare you be mad at me?
Because that's you
right?
all the time.
And it's a weird it's a weird circle, but.
Because I try to see your triggers and work around that, while you sometimes don't. When you see that I'm getting triggered and you're already mad, you could care less what point I get to because you're mad.
Yeah, definitely.
And you could care less.
It definitely is one of those things, tit for tat things. It's not right, but it definitely, we've been together 7 years.
When I give you taste your own medicine and play your game, you get pissed.
Of course.
You literally say, now you're doing to me what I do to you.
Of course.
But when you do it, it's perfectly fine. But when I do it,
of course it's not.
But in the moment, it is, and you know it.
So yeah, we both.
What are my triggers?
Rage.
Like, how do you know when I'm getting depressed or I'm going into one of my depression states?
Laura just gets. Let me talk about your the anger part of that, and then I'll go back to that. But part of something that's one of those things that we've been together long enough that I know, and even though I don't mocking is a huge thing. So not even saying mocking in a weird way, but what's the word? When you say something, I don't know. It's pretty much mocking is what it's pretty much mocking, but I can't think of, an exact
answer
example.
my question with a question.
That too, yeah. But signs of
when I'm
depression, it's just, I don't know, there's all in the body language. You really have there's an energy about you. And I don't know if I can exactly explain that verbally, but there's definitely an energy. I can feel it when you get, very sad. Just recently, just a few days ago, even now, there's definitely still an energy about you right now that's, I'm trying to be happy, I'm trying to be good, but right now it's still a hard time for you. One, we've been feuding, we've been arguing for 2 weeks straight, and then also, I don't know if you want to mention, Friday. Yay, nay.
What was Friday? basics without telling the world, what was Friday?
Just a hard time for family.
Okay. Well, if you would have said the date, I would have known what you meant. I mean, the anniversary of my sister dying, I mean, that I felt more at peace, though. I felt like I finally felt peace and acceptance that she's gone, and I can do this. I went through one of the worst years of my life.
I'm just close.
I went through one of the worst years of my life without my rock, and now I feel like if I can do that, I can do anything. Doesn't mean I don't get depressed still. I'm not necessarily depressed at the moment because of that. I'm depressed because of other stuff. But when I start to get that way, I delegate. I ask you to do more things, and I usually do. I sleep in way later. I have a hard time keeping my eyes open during the day. I have a sad face unless someone looks at me, then I give you a fake smile. I have this I'm annoyed tone in my voice with everything. I either just want to sit in the room in the same pajamas for 2 weeks and sleep, or I want to be out the house getting drunk to where I don't even know my name all the time. I mean, there's no in between. It's one of those two things.
Depression fixable?
No. It comes and goes. I don't think you can ever fix it. I think if you suffer it, you're going to suffer off and on through your life. I personally don't believe in medicine unless you're like super homicidal or even suicidal, or like you have schizophrenia or something, because there are ways to control it to an extent. There are ways, you know yourself better than anyone. You can pull yourself out of a funk. And if you get to a point where you feel like you can't, it's okay to seek help. It's okay to let someone know, hey, I'm not okay, man. Like, help me. I need help. There's no weakness in it. It's not something that should be frowned upon or looked at as damaged goods, because that's not in reality what it is. I'm still a great mother and a great wife, and I do everything for my family, but sometimes I need help. Sometimes I need to let go and worry about myself and how to pull myself out of a funk. So no, I don't think it's ever fixable. You can mask it, but it's not going to be fixable.
I think everyone has depression, and everyone goes their ways of ups and downs. I think it's completely normal. Like, there's a point where it can swallow you and become a black hole.
Is normal. It's depression.
As in, it's a normal wave that there's no way in hell you'll go through life always happy. There's going to be plenty of times when you're just feeling like low, like not confident in yourself, like you're not worthless, like no one can give two shits about you. And I think the worst thing you can do is mask it, to pretend. I did this for a very long time, where I just would pretend that I was okay, and it would just, it turns into a really deep, because you're faking it and you're not being real with yourself, it becomes way worse.
But when you have other people who depend on you, it's harder not to mask it, because you have to get up. After Sissy died, the only thing that got me out of it was Eden pulling me out of bed and saying, Mommy, I need you. And in that moment, I had to stop being selfish because my son needed me. And you didn't understand my coping mechanisms and why it was so hard for me to even get out of bed.
And everyone deals with it like differently. So I'm really glad, really happy that we have like your side of how you feel and how you interact and express like depression. For me, the ultimate way I always get over it, unless I'm like Laura's like, hey, Will, it's not so bad, I love you, da da da. A lot of times it helps, but if that's not the case, always, 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 I just think about whoever else that's probably going through much more shit than I am, and I'm like, okay, you know, things can be much worse. Things can be so much worse. And I get the fuck over it. Like, and that's personally my own way of doing it. And it always is, it makes, like, I realize a day later or 2 days later, it's like, really, you know, you are important. You are valuable. You're
But sometimes
amazing.
you can be depressed and not know why. Because you've probably repressed so much. At least for me, I've repressed so many emotions that I get depressed out of nowhere. And sometimes some people don't even realize what they're doing. But that's probably why you're depressed. Because you've repressed so many things that's probably happened to you that you're done. You're numb. You have no feeling. You're like Squidward. You're just moping.
You don't feel like you're worth anything. Like, what's the point in life? Like, there's nothing, you don't, like you said, you don't feel anything. I've had several moments where I've just been very, very numb. And they didn't last long for me personally, but they were very hard to get through. And it was almost like a wake-up call where something traumatic happened and it snapped me out of it, where it was like, wow, I was on autopilot and this person just went through this, like, you know, or like the moment where King almost died or whatever, like that, those type of moments make me realize, like, I need to really pay attention and really just be more attentive to the people that really matter in my life.
You should never apologize for your feelings. That's the problem that people have, is you're supposed to put on this persona of being strong and not being a little whimpering bitch and just get the fuck over it. Be a man, be a woman, you know, balls up, whatever. And that's great. That is great and all, but that's not life. That's not reality. People have feelings. You can say you don't, but you do. Things hurt your feelings. Things get to you, and people keep saying it over and over. It hurts. And getting the fuck over it might be great for a little while, but it's not dealing with it. It's still repressing those emotions. Because your kid broke his arm, it might snap you out of it for a minute because you're in shock. But you're going to go right back if you don't deal with the problem at hand. Why are you so sad? Why do you feel worthless? There's something happening. There's something you're not talking about that could happen as a child. It could have happened a week ago. But just because something happened and you're in this euphoric shock doesn't mean it's gone. Doesn't mean it's going to be gone. Until you work through those issues, it's not going to be gone.
So before we wrap this up, do you think that you can blame your depression on other people? Do you think that's a common thing?
To an extent. Like, kids who get made fun of all the time for being different end up killing themselves sometimes, and that can to an extent be blamable on someone else for the bullying. You probably shouldn't do that, but you can't fully blame that person for taking their own life. I can be mad at you and you set me off the straw on the camel's back that sent me into a deep depression, but that's not where it spewed from originally. So I can't blame it on you. I can blame what's happened to me where blame's due, where things have happened to me as a child or whatever of what they've done to me. And that's blamable, but at the same time, what's the point of holding on to that? Because you're going to be bitter. So at some point, you have to, well, it happened. It's time to move forward and stop being bitter. I don't have to talk to that person. I don't have to see that person. But holding on to it, it's like you're blaming them, but you should be blaming yourself too for holding on to it. So you can blame other people to an extent, but there's no point in being bitter. Life is short, and you never know when you're going to die. So why be bitter all the time because someone did you wrong, someone hurt you? Everyone's been hurt. Join the club. Like, it's hard for me to feel bad for people who use it as a crutch. I live my everyday life being sad and angry and depressed, so do millions of other people. I can't even get on the highway by myself driving without having a panic attack because I'm so scared something bad could happen. Because I think of every bad thing that could happen to me on the highway. And so when people use it as a crutch, it pisses me off because it shouldn't be used as a crutch. Yeah, it's a shitty situation, but, work through it. It's gonna be alright. You don't have to get the fuck over it like that, but don't use it for an everyday crutch. Oh, I have anxiety. I know I made these plans, but I can't keep them because I feel like I'm gonna shit my pants. Okay, so do I. I'm still here. I gave you my word. I'm gonna do it.
Do you think that's saying get the fuck over it?
In a way, yeah, but I'm saying take that time. But if you're using it as an everyday crutch is when I'm telling you to get the fuck over yourself.
I think
you can't use it as an everyday crutch. That's how do you live your life? How do you can live a successful life and be depressed and take that time, to work through your feelings while still holding down your life.
Do you think that depression has a lot to do with purpose in yourself? Like I feel like when I'm pursuing or doing what makes other people happy, whether that's like working like a dead-end job, like nonstop, and trying to do someone else's mission and just try to survive, it puts me in
it could be how you perceive yourself. I can see that, but there's so many different things that can make you can't categorize everybody with depression because it's not how it works. People aren't, yes, people are statistics, but not everyone lives to be those statistics. And I think statistics for people, for mental illness, for a lot of things is bullshit. You can't categorize a depression or a mental illness all in one because everyone's different.
So to really wrap it up, how do you, like, the simplest advice you can think of, or simple practical steps, not just like intangible philosophical stuff, how do you get out of a rut? How do you get out of an episode of depression right now? Like how, like if you had to think of 3 steps of just...
You have to go through it to move through it. You have to be it. You have to be depressed. If you're in a depressive state, that's okay. Take the time. Still live your life, still go to your job, but take that time to think about you. Take that time to be selfish. You don't have to be strong for everybody else if it's killing you on the inside. Work through it. Keep the people who are willing to help you, don't push them away because sometimes you can't get that back.
Yeah, that's true.
Find different outlets that make you happy that doesn't necessarily involve drinking or drugs. Just, draw, read a book, find a group or something, I don't know. And find a purpose to get out of bed. Because sitting in bed makes it worse. Find a purpose other than, your job that makes you happy and do it.
Explore and discover. Laura, oh my God, you just blow my mind. You
keep learning.
Hearing you talk about some of this stuff, it's powerful and it's moving, and I really appreciate it. I enjoy it. I enjoy hearing
it's
your
okay
spirit.
To cry.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes you just need to do that. I think that's like, I think that's pretty much that's about it. Let's
call Chelsea before she has a panic attack herself.
So, you want to ask you one question before we close this? I'm always asking you a question.
Okay, I'll ask you, how does it make you feel when I'm depressed?
It makes me feel, when Laura's depressed and I can't, like, quote unquote solve it or help her through it, it makes me feel worthless. It makes me feel like just a bad husband. And even though it's maybe not the reality, it just, because I want her to be better, her to feel better, her to just, you know, just, I want her to be able to not be in that moment. Like, I want her to just be so happy. And sometimes you can't do anything about that. Sometimes you have to just let it be. That's the biggest thing that I'm learning this year, is that sometimes you can't solve a problem. You have to let it be, whether that's with yourself or with another person. In that time, just, it makes it better. Don't not check on the person. Don't, like, you know, ignore it, but don't be overbearing. Don't try to force that person to be fixed. You can't force a bone to be healed in, you know, 2 seconds. All right, Laura's giving me the tap. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. So sorry we're late. I can't promise it won't happen again, but
Probably will.
it probably will. We'll try to do better next time. Love you guys. See you next week. Next Monday, Laura.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Bye, podcast.
Bye.